So the last few weeks of Battlefield 5 have unfortunately been a bit underwhelming, but today we finally got a breath of fresh air. We actually got a new update, which was pretty big, and it had a brand new map called Marita. So guys, this is Billyeatworld again, and let's find out. Alright, so you might remember I actually made a video on Marita back at EA Play, and well, at the time I was actually pretty impressed with it. And look, I still am. It's obviously one of the best looking maps in the game, and I really appreciate that they are trying to make it tighter and more focused on infantry combat. Unfortunately though, when the patch did drop today, it didn't launch with most of the smaller player cap variants of Marita. They'll be coming in a separate playlist on August 8th. And, well, what was kind of doubly disappointing is that it seems like it'd be a really good map for Rush as well. And unfortunately, that rotated out again, just as Marita came back in. Now, obviously, I'm pretty biased when it comes to small player cap modes, but look, it only takes a game or two to realise that Marita can't really handle 64 players properly. I mean, at least there's not really any heavy vehicles to deal with, but this is a map focused around choke points, and the sheer number of players facing off against each other is a bit of an RNG fest. And not just that, but 3/4 of the way through the conquest rounds, squad leaders start unlocking their artillery strikes, which all get spammed, unfortunately, one after the other. And so sure, it's super intense and it's super cinematic, but look, it's also super annoying, and unless you're right into atmosphere, well, you're probably gonna hate it. Now, with that being said though, I'm not saying that Marita is a bad map at all. In fact, it's actually a pretty good one. It's just that the player cap is letting it down at the moment. And I can safely say that because, well, I was actually playing tonight on Australian servers, and as it got later, the servers were only half full, and that felt like it was about right. So once again, look, I think once private servers make it into the game, hopefully this is another problem that we'll see made a little bit better by small player cap community servers. But better yet, I think DICE could probably even consider adding in some kind of 32 player conquest playlist with maybe some of the other smaller conquest maps like Rotterdam, which I know is actually a thing because I played it back at PAX Australia in about October last year. Until then, though, the question is, how do you actually deal with Marita in its current state? And, well, it took me a few games to figure it out, but here's a few quick tips. Firstly, you'll want to make sure you keep checking all the ridge lines for snipers and MMGs because they're basically always up there, and if you're smart, you want to stay away from camping those ridge lines yourself. Also, another good tip is to try and build up all the fortifications, like for example the embankments that are next to sea, because they're really good help at locking those choke points down. And speaking of choke points, well, another good tip is to try and predict where enemies will flank from if they are choked out, and set up overlooking those lanes, like for example the buildings at B looking back towards the D flag. So all in all, like I said, this patch and the launch of Marita, compared to say the launch of Al Sandan, is a breath of fresh air, and I think most people are probably enjoying it at the moment. But once again, I think it just really highlights that small things like artillery spam and the fact that you can't always play the modes you want to play are really important to the player base. DICE LA have obviously done some seriously outstanding work designing this one, but you guys know how the Battlefield community works. They're going to focus on the negative aspects. And unfortunately, as good as Marita is, there's just enough wrong with it that will probably end up dominating all the talk on social media about it for the next few days. Now, on a lighter note, just before we finish up, the other quick thing I should mention that we got in this update was 2 brand new elites. We got Norman Kingsley for the Allied faction, and we also got Ilza Schattenwolf for the Axis faction, and I've got to admit they actually both look pretty good. With that being said though, I'm not even someone who uses the free cosmetics in this game, so I won't be buying them, but if you do want to pick them up, they are going to be $9.90 boins each. So what do you guys think about these elites? Do you think they're worth it? Will you be buying them, or will you be giving them a miss? Let me know what you think down below. But anyway, guys, that just about wraps up this quick news update, so hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea as to what's happening with Battlefield 5 at the moment. And as always, make sure you let me know what you think about anything you've seen in this video. Leave a comment down below because I'd love to take a look. As always, though, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe, and please feel free to check out the links in the description if you want to see any more of these videos. And also, don't forget you can find my Twitter and Discord links down there as well if you want to keep in touch. And as always, until next time, see you later, and have a good one.